Welcome to the Tenn and 2 podcast. I'm Kat.
And I'm Catlin.
And we're here every week talking watches, photography, adventure, and horology. Exploring the world of horology.
I was going to say, you almost had it.
This is what happens.
I won't even look at you because I want to laugh every time we start it, but I don't want to mess you up.
I didn't have my cheat sheet in front of me today, so it was all coming from the head, which is
not a safe place. Not consistent.
Well, how are you?
I am doing very well. How are you?
Pretty good.
Yeah?
I'm excited for our show today.
Me too.
We have a guest on that we've been talking to for quite a while, and that is Mr. James Helms over from the Worn and Wound crew. How are you, James?
Good. How are you?
Good. We're super excited that you wanted to come on the show.
Yeah. I've heard from you so much over the last, year or so.
Yeah.
So I figured we should probably talk in person finally. And this literally is the first time we're doing
How
that.
is this the first time that we're talking? I had your watch for like 6 months, and we never even chatted.
You mean your watch?
Well,
you just ended up taking it. I never got it back. Just for the reference. I'm just kidding. I got it back.
He got it back. I promise.
I got it back.
That's funny because I think there were some people that were convinced that you literally just kept it, which is hilarious.
No, that's what she does. She steals watches. I don't know if anyone knows that.
I'm from Antioch, y'all. Okay, it is what it is. Don't send me your watches.
Oh man,
why did we send back that Moser though? We should have stole that one.
We would have had a couple people after us, I think, on that
one.
No, but yeah, I think that was probably one of the first times that you had reached out when you sent over that Stova, and we both fell in love with it, and. Yeah, we've kind of been chit-chatting ever since.
Well, I kind of had to reach out. You guys, you both were so enamored with it. And we were too, honestly. So I was like, well, I really want to talk to him just to see from a product standpoint how we did.
Yeah.
And you gave great feedback to us. So thank you.
So James, tell our listeners a little bit just about yourself and kind of what you do at Worn and Wound.
So my name's James. I live in San Diego, California.
Thank you for clarifying.
I don't live in... Thank you. You're welcome. I feel like I have to do that again. I live in San Diego, California, just North County for anybody that's from here. And I'm one of the co-founders of Worn and Wound. I primarily run the wind-up watch shop. And I'm not based in New York like the rest of the company is in Brooklyn. But I travel back and forth usually about once a month. A little bit different right now.
Yeah.
But hopefully hoping to get back to normal this month. Hopefully we can start to get back to normal and traveling and things like that. But so Zach and Blake kind of started the website, I think in 2011. And then I had started this terrible website that I'm not even going to name. And I was doing that because I'd been laid off during the recession like twice in 6 months. So I was really mad. And I just started a watch website. And then I ended up getting a job, and I didn't really have time for it. So I reached out to Blake and Zach, and they knew who I was, I knew who they were. And I said, can I just write for you? I've got all these watches. And they said, sure. Turns out I'm a pretty terrible writer. I don't do that anymore. But I do like watches. I always have. So I basically helped them, and we kind of came together and said, let's start making products. And Zach is a product designer, as well as an industrial designer. He's got a huge amount of background in product design. I'm a product manager. So for the two of us, it was kind of like, let's work together and try to make some products out of what we do. And we started making straps, along with Blake, who's kind of our head guy and kind of runs everything for the company. And we developed a line of straps. I think it was called the Model 1. Mm-hmm. That was probably October of 2012, and we immediately sold out. And we really started with about $10,000, and that was about all we started with. And we just kept going and going and going. And slowly but surely, we made more products. And then we kind of started to leave our full-time jobs. And I was the second to last one, I think, to leave. That was 2016. And then Blake was shortly after me. Blake might have been a little bit before me. And then we went full-time, and we kind of dove in, and it was quite scary, but we've never really looked back, and it's been great ever since. we started a show called the Wind Up Watch Fair, which Blake runs, and it's a fantastic show. We started in 2015, I believe, with about 3,000 people, and now we get about probably over 15,000 every show that we have in San Francisco and New York City, and then we'll be expanding to Chicago just as soon as we can. And then in 2018, we rebranded our shop from the Worn and Wound shop to the Wind Up Watch shop, and we started to carry watches, and that was something that we would always kind of wanted to do. We just kind of had to get our mind in the right place, and we got it there, and we set it up, and it's been a heck of a ride ever since. Yeah. We're having a great time. We're talking to a lot of brands, and we approach the way that we sell watches quite a bit differently than ever before. Mm-hmm. It's been done, and we really focus on the wearing of the watch, the lookbooks, the lifestyle of the actual watches, and we carry a wide array of pretty much everything, and we're trying to always have something new there.
Well, and something different that I think stands out for me with Wind Up and the Wind Up Watch Shop is that you guys showcase watches that unfortunately a lot of the community doesn't really get to hear about too often, which is some of the micro brands and independent brands that some of the bigger guys don't necessarily cover. And I love that because I think we're both huge micro brand fans, and no, you carry more than that, obviously, but
sure,
you are our go-to source for all micro brands, and what you guys have built with the Wind Up fairs is just amazing. We were so bummed, which was understandable that you guys had to cancel this year, but we were incredibly bummed that we couldn't go.
We kept trying to push back when we could go to the event. Like it was we were going to get tickets for San Francisco, then we booked tickets for Chicago, and then we were like, I bet New York's not going to happen.
Yeah.
It was devastating, to be honest. It was very difficult for us to do that. Not only is it a show that we put on, and there's a lot of business reasons that we do it, but we see all of our friends, including you, twice a year and now 3 times a year. And it's really a time when everybody comes in from around the world, whether they're companies or readers or customers, and we get to say hello and sometimes go out to dinner if we have time and we're not dead at the end of the day. And it's just been a little bit tough because we can't do that this year, but we're very much looking forward to it next year and getting back to normal, because those connections that we make in the watch world, a lot of it transcends kind of everything. We can argue and talk about watches all day long, and it's perfectly fine. We can kind of remove ourselves from the world for a while, and that's what we really like to do. So we understand it was tough, and we feel the same way.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, I think, something that I've heard from a lot of just brand owners in general that we've talked to is their ability to communicate with, other brand owners that are there, and they get to kind of hang out and come together, which is something really cool, and you don't really see a lot, especially with those big guys. I know we've talked to, Justin from Monta and, the Notice guys, and they just rave about it and encouraged us to go because it's so much fun.
Yeah.
We don't get to experience probably 90% of it because
you guys are like
we're running around like crazy. Yeah, but it's fun. You get to hear the stories. I was just talking to Steve from Raven, Steve Laughlin, and he was talking about how he was like, I will go anywhere if you're having a show. I need to see everyone. I need to go out at night.
We're all in a cornfield in Iowa.
Yeah.
But there's a show, so we'll go.
Yep. So it's cool. We, as we've done it more and more, we've found these people that travel really long distances to be there. I see the same people at every show, and I'm like, how did you get? You're flying. I mean, people are really flying in from Canada and all over the United States, and even other countries, just to come see us and to see their friends, which we think is just amazing. Yeah. To have little micro groups. We hear about this group that's coming, and they're going to come in as a big group, and we kind of look out for them because we think how neat it is that they're developing a trip with their friends around our show. Yeah. So we're really flattered by that. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and I think one of the biggest appeals is there's nowhere else that you get to see these brands. Because you guys do specialize with micro brands, there's nowhere else that you could go and hold Notice or Raven or Monta. It's such a unique platform. Was it a conscious decision to make your focus around more of the micro brands, and not just with the Wind Up Watch Fair, but with the Wind Up Shop and with Worn and Wound kind of in general, because it seems to have really been a focus of y'all's for a very long time.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the micro brands is really kind of how we got started, and we didn't feel that there was a lot of people talking about it early on, myself included, and we just really wanted to kind of talk about those brands a lot more. And we've seen a lot of those brands come a long way. Obviously the big brands are important to us too, because they're the brands we always love. But it's been nice over the years to see those brands go from, a Kickstarter or just one watch to full-fledged companies now. And what's also interesting is like Bradley from Autodromo. I was talking to him the other day. When we first met him, he was at the first Wind Up show, and now he has a baby. And now, he started, in 2015, and now he brings his baby to the show, which is just kind of cool. You get to see these people really grow, and they become really close friends to you. And so the micro brands are really interesting because, even for people that are coming into the show, it's like, how often can you walk through the door and talk to the guy or woman that started a particular watch brand?
Yeah, right.
And you can do that with Laurier, and you can do that with Autodromo, and that's what's really fun. And it's fun for me too. I geek out with a lot of the brands and talk to them. And like just the other day, I was kind of like, oh, I need to buy a Fairer. I've never had a Fairer before. Let me see if I can, which one I want. And I was talking to Stu at Fairer about which one I wanted, and we kind of went back and forth. And it's just, I still geek out over that. So for me, the show is just as fun attending as it is, running part of it. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Well, since you do still geek out over that, what is your history in watches? I know, other than you had a watch blog when you were laid off, have you always been into watches, or was it a more kind of recent development?
No, ever since I was a kid, my father was a big watch geek and a car geek, and he kind of not really pushed me, but he was always looking at way back in the late 90s about buying used Omegas and used Rolexes. He never bought one, but he had an Omega Constellation, which I ended up getting after he passed. And that's a really important watch to me because it really kind of personifies what I've developed into watches. I haven't bought another Omega, looking to, but I tend to buy a little bit less expensive watches just because I kind of wear one at a time and knock them around quite a bit. But it's always been something that's kind of that I do with my father, and it's something that that a lot of people that I know over the years have had the same feelings towards. And it's just one of those things that, you can have a lot of them and people don't look at you funny. They're just like, yeah. My wife, Mago, is just like, don't you have enough watches? And I'm like, no. And you feel the same way. It's the N+1 theory. Whatever number you have plus one is what you need. And it's not a terribly expensive hobby, depending on how you go after it, and your price range. But it's something that's come along quite a bit, and I've always wanted to really be involved in the product development of them. When I was doing product development, corporate, it's kind of boring. We're not really doing anything terribly interesting. I was in a bunch of different industries, but watches are a lot more interesting. You're dealing with having to seal a watch perfectly and really close tolerances and manufacturing processes in different countries and style at the same time. So you have to wrap all that into a stylistic box that has people that are very discerning towards it. So I've always kind of felt that affinity towards watches in general, and it always changes. Every year I change my mind on what I like. So it's one of the few things that I've never quite nailed down what I like and what I don't like about it.
Yeah, we feel you there.
Yeah,
our minds change quite a bit
all the time.
So, well, you know how it's like. I mean, you two probably have. I've seen some of your Instagram posts of what you have and some of the things that go through your collections. But I mean, you have probably expensive watches and inexpensive watches, don't you?
Yeah. I think, and we tell people this all the time, is that price point doesn't really matter to us. It's the style, it's the fit of the watch. I love my Seikos just as much as I love my Rolex,
right,
if not more, to be honest with you. So, and I think that's what's so good about this hobby, and you kind of touched on that too, James, is that you can start at any price point.
Right.
And you can just you can fall in love with it, and you can be a hobbyist without spending a ton of money, which is just it's so awesome about this hobby, because you can't say the same thing for guys that love cars, because cars are not cheap.
Right. No, not at all. Your starting price is too expensive.
Yeah. But that's one thing I love about this hobby, and I'm kind of getting into photography now too, and it's the same. You can buy a more affordable camera and really get your feet wet in the hobby. Of course, that makes you want to spend more money into the hobby, which is
a
right,
vicious
right.
cycle. It really is. So terrible.
We just have no more money.
I find it weird because over the years, I've had IWC, I've had Bell and Ross, I've had some more expensive watches, but I like them just as much as I like a $300 watch. Mm-hmm. Like the Yema Mecha Quartz, the new Rally Graph that they have. It's not really new; it's kind of a reissue, but that watch is just as interesting to me as the IWC Pilot that I had. It was a Mark 18 Pilot, and it's weird to me that the dollars don't always line up. Like I've had this recent affinity, and it's probably one of your faults, about Tudor, because I've never really gotten into Tudor, and all of a sudden I was just like, I want a navy blue BB58, and I don't know why. But like I said, I also want a fairer.
Social media. I'm sorry, why?
It's like I think that's probably what it is. It's just constantly in your face. But it's just as nice to me as a $300 watch in a lot of ways. I'm sure there's many people that will argue with me over that. But that you're completely correct, and the cost doesn't really matter. Unless of course you have to pay it.
Well, I think that's one of the things that makes this hobby so interesting, is that it doesn't matter if you are really into the design aesthetic. And I think for us, that's something that's more important than the name that's on the watch. I want to physically love, I don't care what name is on it. If I don't love the look of the watch, I'm never going to wear it. So why spend, X amount of dollars on something when I have something less expensive that I just love aesthetically even more? So I think people get so caught up in names sometimes, and that you have to spend X amount of dollars to, to be accepted in this hobby. And what I love about it is when you're really in this hobby, people love G-Shocks just as much as they love Rolex in the industry. And it fascinates me so much that Seiko is held in the regard it is. And I love that, because I've said in the podcast before, like, I did not grow up where like this was an option. Like, my parents still think I'm absolutely insane, and I don't tell them how much money I spend because I don't want to hear about it. But Mom, man, get off. But you can get the Seiko. You can go to a local watch meetup with the new S5 and be just as well respected as the guy who walks up with the Rolex or the AP. And I love that, like, the community of people that is in this hobby, more so than any other hobby. I truly think that. It's awesome. Yeah,
and I think something else that people get caught up in, other than just the name of the brand on the dial, is also the movement. Man, it drives me crazy when they're like, yes, but this has an in-house movement, and I'm like, I don't really care. Like, I want to watch that runs well and keeps time, and that's all I can ask for. If it's off 5-10 seconds a day, then so be it. It really does not bother me.
You're gonna piss everybody off.
I know.
But the thing is, here's the reality. People who time out their watches, I know they should tell me what time it is. I would never know if my watch was off 5 or 10 seconds a day.
No.
I wouldn't, because I rotate through my watches.
We change watches
so
every
much.
day. Yeah.
So I would never know. Now, like, when my little vintage Omega was off like 4 hours, okay.
That's a problem.
I noticed that. We're going to send that girl off and never get her back.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm not a person who keeps time really on watches a lot, because I just don't notice it. But I do set them when I do very, very accurately. Mm-hmm. But I will argue for the people and our customers that talk about... Our customers do have particular reasoning for having exacting time standards. Yeah. We talk to a lot of pilots, talk to a lot of doctors, we talk to a lot of different people that we've met over the years. And sometimes what's lost between, I know myself, is I don't have a mission critical job. It doesn't matter what time I show up to things. Yeah. But there are people that it does matter. Yeah. And I think that's what I've learned over the years, is that there are people that just want it to be exacting because they want it to be exacting, but there are other people that need it to be exacting, and that's really where watch timing was very important so long ago. Is that, you know, watches, whether it was to do with a war or a pilot or you didn't have a quartz accurate option, it had to be. So I think that it's still there for a lot of people. Like it's important, but for a lot of people, I think it's just they want it to work right. And it's a mechanical piece of art, and they expect it to work right. So
there's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong, but don't ask me how accurate my watch is, 'cause I don't know, y'all. Like,
I'm in the same boat. I'm in the same boat.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to, you know, these watches were used as tools at some point in time, and they needed to be accurate, and they still do. And if you're spending, you know, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 or more on a watch, then absolutely, I agree. You want it to be on time. You want it to be very, very accurate. But it's just not. It's not the most important thing. You know, I could have a watch that has an ETA movement in it, and you know, I'm just as happy with that as I am with my Tudor that has an in-house. You know, I don't see the difference between the two personally, but that's not to say that I don't love these beautifully decorated movements. You know, we just had that Mosier in that was like crazy cool and really made me appreciate, you know, something like that. But
I was actually talking to a real diver the other day, and he I know we don't see too many of those. No, he was an actual diver, and he was asking me a particular question about the lock ring on a Yema. And he said, you know, when you open it, can I open it underwater? And there's some watches you can, there's some watches you can't. But it was actually important to him because he was one of the few people that I've met as a diver that's actually using a watch for a dive purpose. They usually use, you know, I guess it's a quartz or a Sunto or something like that, that they're timing their oxygen on. But he was actually asking me, if I take the crown off underwater, is that bad? So there are still people, you know, there are still other things on the watch too that are still critical. And what I find interesting, and I guess I'll toot our own horn, but I think what we do a really good job of on the Worn and Wound blog side is what we talk about the reasoning behind some of those technologies that may be getting lost because people just don't know. You know, what the purpose of a tachymeter is, and what all these different things on a watch that maybe you don't use as much anymore. But, you know, talking about another company that has adapted it to current, if you look at Brew Watch, they've put their timing on his watch. His name's John Ferrer, and his watches actually have a timing function for your espresso shots. Yeah, which I thought was kind of cool. It's very modern way.
Highly important for sure. It's probably the only thing I would use a chronograph for, realistically. I mean,
do you time your espresso shots?
I don't. I have a Keurig. I'm not a fancy coffee person at home, y'all.
I'm sorry, I caught you. I'm sorry.
Call me out. Kat over quarantine got a little fancy with her coffees, but
that didn't last too long.
I'm still a Keurig person.
I'm sorry, I caught you. We can
Keurig
cut that
and Starbucks. I'm as basic as it gets when it comes to my coffee.
I don't time it. I just hit the button and I just wait for it to be done.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like, just done.
It's done.
It's so easy.
No, I think that's great, and I really love watches, and especially with what John has done over at Brew, where they have a specific purpose. You know, you can use the watch for anything, but he designed it with, you know, timing espressos in mind. Right. And it's the reason that I think a lot of people used to connect with Rolex so much was, you know, each of their watches were made for someone different, whether it was an engineer or a diver. My Explorer 2 we talked about that, was made for spelunkers, and I like, even if it has nothing to do with me, I like knowing that the watch design was made for something specific. I don't know. I just find that story really cool. Of course, some people could just make it up. It's not really a thing.
It's fine. I'll believe it. Like, I just want
believe anything.
I just want to think that there's a cool story behind something. I mean, let it be marketing for all I care. Yeah. Just let me buy into it.
Exactly.
I'm down.
Yeah.
We're really gullible here at Tenn too.
It's because we're Southern.
Marketing works.
Yeah, marketing totally works on us. The number of random things that I buy. Instagram ads are the worst thing ever. Like,
they are.
They've got to stop. Gotta stop.
It's good to know. It's good to know.
James is like, I'm going to start bombarding people with Instagram ads.
Just a lot of wind-up ads showing up
to everybody in the South who's gullible.
He's like, when you're filling out the sponsored content, you're like, women age 25 to 40.
Whoa,
Southern states.
Whoa, I never said this.
Oh man.
But something I wanted to ask you, James, you kind of touched on this a little bit ago, is that you said you wear one watch at a time. How often do you change those watches out if you're only wearing one watch?
I bring it up because when you go into the Warner Bond office, people change their watches every few hours. So
yeah, I would imagine.
I'm like, why is everybody changing their watch? So no, I typically wear one watch, usually for as long as I can stand it, and then I kind of switch to something new. I had a khaki field mechanical. I guess I started wearing it in November of last year, and I just recently stopped because I wanted to try the Marathon Navigator and in Desert Tan, and I just wanted to see how that went because I haven't really had a quartz watch in a while, and honestly, I'm kind of interested in quartz because it's just gotten so good. I mean, it's always been good, but we're just sticking it in more watches now, and people are taking more notice. And I think Grand Seiko is doing a really good job of talking about quartz in general because they're really the best at it.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's just I want a story behind a watch. I want it to be with me for the places that I've been. I don't really care if I knock it around. I don't buy PVD watches personally because I know I'm going to get scratches on them and it's going to annoy the hell out of me. So I don't do that. But I really want to live with the watch and try it and be able to give some feedback to people about what I do and don't like. The khaki field mechanical was the first time I had a wind up watch. I had never had a wind up watch before, hand wind, which was odd. I did have a Stova Partidio, which we did a limited edition with them, a blue one.
Yeah.
And as soon as I got that in, Meg, my wife, took it, and it's hers, and I haven't seen it since. So I didn't do that one, but I wanted to try something, so I tried the khaki field mechanical, and that was a great watch. I was really surprised at how much you can get out of a single wind, and I would forget to wind it for days, and it has an 80-hour power reserve, so. That was really fun. But lately I've been getting into quartz because, like I said, they're getting so good. They're getting so much more inexpensive that there's just lots of options. There's the Marathons, which are, composite cases, great Swiss movements, sapphire crystals, tritium tubes for, $288.
Yeah.
It's like, how can I go wrong with that? And then you've got like a Zodiac Grand Rally, which is something I've got my eye on for the next time I switch, which is, it's a quartz movement chronograph. And then it has a one-of-a-kind bracelet where you can change out without tools.
Yeah. So
the bracelet, you just pop the side out.
I remember that.
Yeah, it's super interesting. And it's something that they don't really talk a lot about, but they're the only ones that do it. And so I really like to get a feel for a watch. And try and see sometimes if I can break it, and usually I can't because I'm not intense enough on them. But what's weird, and I think maybe one or both of you will have some feedback on this, is that I don't wear them when I bike and run. I wear an Apple Watch, and I still think an Apple Watch is really good for working out, hiking, if you go in the water, which I don't, things like that, where it's timing me and it's tracking GPS on Strava.
Yeah. That's
something that I think a lot of watch companies haven't quite figured out yet.
Yeah.
I think maybe G-Shock is getting closer.
Yeah.
But that's been kind of the gap for me, is like I still have to change a watch pretty much every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I've had an Apple Watch now for about 2 months, 3 months, something like that. And it's made everything so much easier. I mean, as far as working out, things like that. I was never a fan of wearing an actual watch while working out anyways. I sweat a lot anyway. I'm a hot-natured person. And then when I work out, like, I get really hot and it's not a nice look. And I just sweat so much, and I absolutely hate how tight things feel on my wrist. Yeah. I'll wear a G-Shock every now and then, or I would wear a G-Shock, but I mean, ever since I've had the Apple Watch, it's nice to just throw on. I do like the GPS function because a lot of times I'm running by myself. I run at night by myself, things like that. So I like that, like there's some sense of where I'm at. Like, you know, if God forbid something were to happen, like I get hurt or something like that, like I'm able to make phone calls very easily. I'm able to do anything really quickly. I recently discovered it has a flashlight function too, which is kind of amazing. I'm the worst when it comes to technology. This is why Kat takes care of everything. I'm the absolute worst. But so I recently discovered the flashlight, which is like amazing, especially when running at night. But I don't understand the hate behind Apple Watches. It's not, I do wear it every day, and I double wrist every day. Also, like when I'm at work, it's easy to just not have my phone on me all the time, and I can see if I need to respond to something or if it's okay to wait. Yeah. But I think that the watch industry can learn a lot from what Apple's doing. I agree with that, and I think that there's a huge miss. Even outside of the idea of smartwatches, let's look at how easy it is to change the strap on this. It's stupid easy. And you have all of these people now. You have a generation of people who love the idea of changing straps on their watches and personalizing their watches. Who makes watches that are this easy to interchange straps on? Yeah. That aren't like Hublot. Like Hublot's strap change is super easy, but also I'm not paying for that. So, I mean, they use a very similar function where it's just a button that you push. But, I think it's a big miss in the industry, honestly.
Yeah, it's something that I find myself going back to quite a bit. And what's interesting, and I'll admit this because I'm getting older, I have used the fall detection. It has asked me multiple times. Like I'll fall off my bike or something like that and just kind of be a little dazed, and the watch is like, "Are you okay?" I guess it's nice because, you know, being out in the middle of nowhere sometimes and falling, whether you're by yourself or not, is still kind of good. But I noticed that it actually tracks how many times you fall. That's annoying. Like, I don't need to know how many times I've fallen this year. You can forget about that. But that came up the other day, so that was fun. But it's weird, like the strap changing, like you're talking about. I will say that there is a very simple solution that a lot of companies do, which is the integrated. I don't really know. It's the quick change switch.
The spring.
And we don't put those on our straps. Yeah, we don't put those on our straps because it just doesn't work long term. It's longevity of that particular function with leather just isn't great.
Right.
So we don't do it. We realize that it's easy, and we kind of wish sometimes we could do it. But with ours, we'd like them to last as long as possible. So we don't include that. But I think once a lot of people come to our store and they change the strap, and they do it by themselves, they buy a tool, they buy a strap, they realize, this really isn't that hard. Yeah. And once you do it once, and I've done it probably thousands of times, it's not too bad. So Apple did make it really easy for the masses. Yeah. And Google Android did the same with one of theirs. They had their mode system, which I don't know if that's still around, but I think that companies are still going to try. Yeah. Because there's an IWC one too, isn't there? On the IWC, I think it's on the Galapagos. There's like a little switch on the back. I don't know what it's called, but I don't think it's terribly easy, but it's quick change.
Well, that Rado Captain Cook that we had, you know, even on their bracelet, they had that technology where you just pinched your fingers and took the spring bars out, and then you could put another strap on it really quick.
But
interesting.
I think that even watch brands don't advertise different strap options with their watches, and I think that's a big miss too. That's something that I feel like you could easily offer a watch and offer a strap and show how different the watch is, because people are getting used to that. Like I go on Amazon and I can order a billion different straps for this thing. Like that was the first thing I did when I got it, because it was on a pink strap, and because I wanted it to be more neutral for every day, I ordered a black strap. And it was just super easy, super convenient. And I see all the time people with leopard print straps, which I might have to look into so that they match my shoes. But I mean, you just see all these crazy options, and people know that it's there. And I think that in watches, you don't know that it's there, that you have that option.
If you're not like hardcore into the community and already know.
Right.
Already not a nerd like we are.
So
well, it's one of the first things that you get into, right? I mean,
obviously.
buy 15 straps.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
all
That's a
the
problem.
straps.
I know Catlin just like brought me a couple straps today. She's like, here, you can just have them because I have too many.
I have too many, and I have like 2 of the same one because I order more straps and I don't
She
realize.
forgets what she has.
So terrible.
Oh.
It's a real struggle, man.
No, but I see your point, James, because I've had some of those leather straps that do have the quick release pin in them, and it does wear the leather out, and then you have this huge this huge hole in your leather strap that starts inching its way to the top, and then it just ends up looking bad. So I agree. I think not doing that's probably the better way, but it does make it maybe a little bit more difficult. If you don't know what you're doing. I mean, we've all been stabbed in our finger. Like I've had many cuts from strap changes. Like.
All the time.
I have some very interesting stories about, because wind up people will come to us and say, hey, change my watch strap, or hey, I bought this. And,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And half the time you're like, oh, okay. And you kind of work on it. Sometimes
and then
we don't have time. We try to do what we can.
It is underneath. Yeah.
There's that. I try not to bring that up, but yeah. That happens. What happens over the years though, is that, a couple times people have handed us like $30,000 watches, and we're like, I don't really want to do this. It's because it gets a little scary. So last year we actually had Grand Central Watch come and park themselves next to us so that we could hand them off to like a real watchmaker. And because sometimes like the Rolex ones are super difficult, and they have extra parts and you fling a spring bar, which I do pretty much every time, across a room full of 100 people, it's gone. You're not going to find it
forever.
Again. But yeah, it's one of those things that I think is good for everyone who gets into watches to do. Change a few watch straps, and someday we probably won't have spring bars. It's probably going to take 50 years, but it's like the Navy. You gotta learn your maps on paper before you can go into the digital world. So try it out if you haven't.
I like it. I definitely like that, and I like that you were talking about just kind of wearing a one watch for a while too. I agree with that, because I think that you learn what you like a little bit better when you're only wearing this watch for a specific amount of time. I've bought watches that I'm like, I kind of like it, but then I'm wearing so many others, and then it's kind of just in this rotation, and I never really connect with the watch. Where, you're buying a watch and you're wearing it for several months at a time, you really find if you're connecting with it or you're not. And that's why I've probably flipped quite a few watches in my day.
How many watches do you two have?
You're not supposed to ask us that. You don't ask us
but see, that's the difference. I get to ask now.
You don't ask how old we are, and you don't ask how many watches we have.
I didn't ask you those other questions. I just asked how many watches you have.
I think I'm down.
That's good.
I'm down. I've recently kind of curated my collection to a little bit smaller, but I probably have 5 now, 5 or 6.
Shut up.
Yeah.
I have a 21-piece watch box that's almost full. So I
We'll
probably have at least like 15. Don't get me in it. I had to get rid of, I have probably 15 and 20. And there's so much that I don't wear. This is what I'm starting to envy one watch people. So it's super interesting to have this conversation, because I feel like, first of all, you have to be happier because you don't have money just sitting around wasted in a watch box. Like because I grew up so practically. Like, this is not like the hobby that anybody would have expected me to be in anyways in my family. But then having all this money that just sits there and doesn't do anything, like it gives me a lot of anxiety, and I feel terrible. And then I'm on the more emotional side of watches. Like I believe in the story behind them. I believe like I love picking up a watch and knowing the memories that are with that watch. And I feel terrible because there are watches that just don't have that. And I feel like somebody else could make my watch happier. That's where I'm at right now. So if you love it, you let it go, right? Like that's the thing. So I think, Kat and I have talked about it so much lately. It's been a topic of discussion probably every day. We talk about, dwindling down our collections, and she's doing it. And I'm about to start because it's not practical anymore. It's and I want to have better relationships with the watches that I really, really care about. I don't want to pick up a watch to wear that watch because I feel like I have to wear that watch because it's just been sitting there collecting dust. Yeah. I want to pick it up and wear it because I really want to wear that watch. So
yeah. I mean, in my family, and I don't know if it's the same for you, but we have a watch that moves on through the generation. So I have my great grandfather's watch, I have my grandfather's watch, and then I have my I have my other grandfather's watch too, and then I have my father's watch. And it's funny because all of the men in my life, and I actually have my grandmother's watch too. It's a very small mechanical movement, which is amazing. Mm-hmm. And if we think about all those people had one watch their whole life. Yeah. And it's kind of the nature of who we are now. We can have many things, right. But when you think about paring down your collection, for me, it's like at some point in my life, I'll buy one and won't get rid of it. It's like you buy a 911, you don't get rid of it. But I'm not there yet. But someday I'll probably narrow it down. But for me, I always have those sets of watches that I will never touch. One of the watches, kind of a gruesome story, but one of the watches that I have is my great grandfather's pocket watch. It was actually on him when he passed. If he fell down an elevator shaft with the watch on him. So it was actually with him when he passed, and the watch still works. I mean, it's very interesting, the stories that those watches have over the years, and you kind of bring those with you through your life. And I've got to figure out what that watch is. I don't quite know what it is, but I'll jump into the conversation. I will say how many watches I have. I think I have 12.
Okay.
That's not bad.
I don't, if I don't include the warehouse, I think I have 12. And I think, there's just a bunch of like little watches that I just don't have any purpose in getting rid of. Mm-hmm. Like, I just bought a Brew Retrograph Technicolor, and like I'm afraid to wear it because I've been trying to get it for years, and he finally brought it back, and I bought it, and now I'm like, I don't want to wear it. But there's a lot of little stuff like that I just kind of have now, being in the watch industry, that you have friends and you want to watch from your friend, and you want to have that, and I find myself probably thinking I won't get rid of those, but. The less expensive the watches you buy more, right?
Definitely.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, and I think, you kind of brought that up too, where I've bought watches because we've met the brand owners, and I'm like, I want to support you, so I'm going to buy one of your watches. And then I'm like, right. Wait, did I need to buy this watch? No. I didn't need it, Kat. Ugh.
But I like the watch.
But I like the watch, and I like what stands behind it. And we have some that we're not going to get rid of, because at the end of the day, it's like you do have to look at the value, and does it mean more to you, or does it? I mean, you can get maybe a couple $100 for it. Is that worth selling, or is it worth just keeping that piece, knowing that you have a little bit of a special connection with it? Mm-hmm. And it's hard when I get to the point that I have to sell stuff, because I have to let go of some things that I really do like. But like Catlin brought up, I feel bad that I have 10 watches in the safe, and like half of them I'm not wearing, and it doesn't make sense to me. So recently I sold off a couple, but
you get into the argument of, is it a good investment? Is it a bad investment?
Yeah.
We can talk for years about that, but it's an investment in your experiences, at least in my family, of like, I have these watches and they have connections, and I don't really want to get rid of that.
Yeah.
And, it's something that you can use because I remember vividly my grandfather explaining to me, what happened with this pocket watch and why he has this and why he has that. And, so that's an interesting conversation that someday I'll be able to have and give to the next person in our family. So, I guess what I'm saying is, don't feel bad in having a lot of watches. It's perfectly fine.
James told us it was okay.
So I'm going to go buy more watch.
It's N, whatever the number of watches you have, plus one. It's whatever it is.
Well, and so interesting that you brought up that you're afraid to wear the Brew watch, because you said that you get these watches, you wear them, you put them through the ringer, you want to make sure, you try to break them. Now, given we're not trying to break our friends' watches.
No.
But so where does that fear come from?
I think with like Jonathan, I've known him for so long now. And honestly, I bought more than one watch from him. Meg purchased one of his first watches in rose gold because she loved it. And then, I had always kind of wanted to get one from him because he's such an original designer. I think you guys have talked to him before on the podcast, right? Yeah, he's an unbelievably talented. And he's also one of the nicest people I've ever met, to the point where it's like, how can you be so nice? But he's just a great guy. And every time I talk to him, he's very uplifting. He's a very nice person. And you know, I'll always keep in contact with him. And I always wanted to have this particular watch because it was the first one that kind of spoke to me. And when I have that watch, you know, Jonathan created that from the beginning to the end, put it in the box himself and sent it to you. And I know one day when he's, you know, huge brew watch company, it's not going to be like that anymore. Yeah. So I really like that watch. You know, it's a friend of mine that it's something that it makes me remember him. And I also have a concern that he's not going to make anymore because he already ran out once. He ran out once and he brought him back. And I kind of have a feeling he's not going to bring any more back. But that's the reason why I have it. But like, I have a marathon watch right now. I love this watch, but like, I'm going to beat it up and, you know, wear it in all the places that I shouldn't. But it's kind of like a standard issue watch, and it's meant for that. And it's made out of composite, and you just get a new one, and it's not a big deal. Yeah, it's kind of like a Rolex Submariner. Like to me, a Rolex Submariner is a Rolex Submariner. There's lots of them. Yeah. Wear it, beat it up. Yeah, you know, buy a new one. And I'm not a big Rolex person myself. Like, if you can, yeah. I don't have a
Go
Rolex,
ahead and put your name on the list and then start beating it up. And by the time it's broke, you might be able to get a new one.
Yeah, I don't have a Rolex. I never have. I've been more of an Omega person myself. But recently, like I said, you two have forced me into tutors. So
that was all her. I'm not going to take responsibility.
So what's the longest you two have worn a watch? I guess I'll turn it around.
Oh, at one time. 6 hours? One watch for a period of time. Not very long. Maybe like 3 days.
3 hours? Yeah.
Maybe like a couple of days. Or you know, I have gone on trips. I guess, yeah. Last year I went to Alaska on a cruise and I only had my Explorer. And I wore it the whole time. That was a week. And that's probably the only time I've ever worn just one watch for that amount of time. Yeah. What about you?
I went years wearing just the same watch because when I work in the watch industry. So when I started where I work, I had one watch and I wasn't like super into, like, I loved my job. I loved what I did. I loved like I enjoy doing sales. I really do. But I just had my one watch and that was it. And I spent years with this one watch, probably 5 years with this one watch. And then all of a sudden, like, I started just, I don't know what, I went down the rabbit hole and then like all hell broke loose. And I mean, in recent years, probably maybe a week, and probably out of laziness, honestly, out of just not wanting to pick something up and reset.
So Caitlin's good. I'm going to challenge Cat. Why don't we wear the same watch until November?
Oh my God.
Yo, that's like a whole month. I'm not doing
I know.
Oh,
that's
he
more
said
than
he's
a month.
challenging you.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
Wait, so
you're good, Caitlin. I would say, I realize you got to take it off for a few minutes at a time and all that stuff, and you got to take some pictures of other watches. I get that, but if you can, I will challenge you. I'll wear this watch. Here, which is a Marathon Navigator Desert Tan. I'm going to be very specific. Date with a logo, tritium tubes. Okay. If you can wear, and I might change the strap. But if you can wear it until...
I'll allow it. As the unofficial judge, I'll allow it.
Okay, okay, you're going to be the judge. If you can wear it till the end of November...
End of November. Okay. Now, can I take it off for pictures with other watch? Okay.
Yeah. You can take it off for like an hour at a time. Okay, you can go to bed, things like that.
I think I can do that. Okay. I'll take you up on
$10.
$10.
Got it.
All right.
Deal.
I think that's within our legal rights to bet $10. Okay. $10.
Well, we live in Tennessee. We're not like really allowed to bet anything, but it's fine. Hopefully the state of Tennessee isn't listening to this.
But if I don't see it, how am I gonna? You're the judge.
I'll be the judge. So every day, I feel like every day I should get a picture. Okay. That shows that every day a picture from both of you that shows you're wearing that watch that day.
Okay.
We could fake that really easy, but yes.
But I'm gonna assume we're not faking it. I'm gonna assume don't be assholes. Don't cheat. Just, all right.
I tell you what. If I take it off, if I don't do it, I'll give you the watch. How about that? If I That's my side. You can do whatever.
Cat's
If I
like,
take it off, if I take it off, I'll give it to you.
We'll do it. We'll start a group chat, and everybody can just send a picture every
Okay.
day, and
Sounds-
we'll see. End of November.
I don't think she can do it.
I don't.
To be honest.
I don't know. So I'm wearing
I don't
my
think I can do
my
it.
brand new Omega Seamaster that I just picked up last week. So I feel like I could
You
do
could do it
that.
with that
I
watch,
could do
I
it. It's
feel
brand
like.
new. Like I need to bond with it a little bit.
Is
so.
that the watch you're
Okay.
picking?
Yeah.
Because it needs to be official.
Yeah. This
All
is
right.
it. Right
So
here.
So that's the one I
Seamaster.
get. I get that one.
James said he's been trying to get an Omega
This was
Yeah.
he had this
Found
plan
my way.
the whole
the whole
time.
time.
This is all a big plan.
But I am challenging you for real though.
I-
am
Alright.
challenging
I'm
you.
down.
If I take it off, okay.
I'm
We're
down.
starting a
'Cause we
group
got a
chat.
Yeah.
we got a lot of cool watches
I got all
coming out in the
the
next
straps
2
now
months,
for
so
it,
this
too.
is going to be tough.
I love it. Yeah, you're that. I was gonna ask you what watch you were wearing anyway because I could tell it was on a red NATO. It looked pretty cool.
Yeah, so we just came out with a new color called Paprika.
Yeah.
I think it was a few months ago.
Yeah.
What's kind of fun with our adapt straps that we make entirely in the U.S. If you want to hear the story, you can. We've done whole podcasts on it. I won't bore anybody with it, but we bring out new colors as often as we can, and we're actually going to bring out a new style of strap in a single pass version pretty soon.
Oh, cool.
But we add new colors, and before this, honestly, we messed up the first ones. And that became Mai Tai, which is like
Oh,
a
really?
salmon
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of coral color.
I love
Yeah.
that
So
one.
oh, you have that one?
No, I said I love that one.
Oh yeah, that was a total mistake. We completely screwed that up. And when we got it, we're like, this is wrong, but we like it, so let's give it a shot. So it's actually one of our highest selling colors, and we just keep going with the mistake. so we named that Mai Tai, and then we did Paprika again, and now we have Paprika. And so it's like a deep kind of oxblood red, and that's what I've been using lately. I don't know if it clashes on this or not, but
No, I think it works
it's
because
kind
of the darker case on
Yeah,
that. I
for
think it
sure.
works really well with that red.
Yeah, it's kind of a neat color, and then we accent stitch it so that kind of matches the rest of the watch. But so that's what I've been putting on it. The marathons come with like a nice kind of standard issue nylon strap. But what's interesting about them is they have solid spring bars. You can't take them out.
Oh, okay.
So if you want to put on like a leather strap, it's got to be a pass-through.
Interesting.
Oh.
Okay.
But it's one thing that you'll never have to lose or
yeah,
break.
that's true.
is that solid spring bar all the way through it.
And
Yeah.
you'll try.
Well,
so.
I think they're the way that those watches are designed. They want them to really be tool watches, and I
Yeah,
think a
for
lot of
sure.
people are going to wear them on a NATO or something like that anyway. But that's pretty cool.
Yeah, Marathons is such a neat company. If you haven't dug into it, they do a ton of standard issued watches for military, especially with the Marine Corps
Yeah.
in the U.S. But they have all sorts of different stuff. You can get an inexpensive less than $300 watch. You can get over $1,000, but they're all made in Switzerland. It's great.
Yeah, I love the use of the tritium tubes that they
Mhm.
have. I think
Yeah,
that
definitely.
technology is just so cool.
Mhm.
I used to have
And it
a
scares a
ball
lot of
watch.
people.
It does. Yeah. They're like, if I break my watch and it releases the gas, am I gonna die? Like
Meanwhile,
I'm
we talk on cell
No.
phones, we use microwaves and like everything else.
Yeah.
So, but it's
Yeah.
fine. That's the concern.
It's as radioactive as a banana. Just so
oh,
everybody
okay.
knows.
Well, that's good to know.
That's how we
Are bananas
Yeah.
radioactive? I didn't know this.
They are.
Oh,
They
my
are
gosh.
actually.
I eat bananas all the time.
We just totally rocked your world. You're like, bananas are radioactive this whole time?
Hey Siri.
did not know that.
Oh my gosh.
That's hilarious.
I'm totally looking that up when we're done. That's like my post-workout snack every day. Oh man.
Catlin,
This is the end of to the do.
yeah, Catlin no longer eats bananas anymore.
Done. That gets rid of banana nut bread, banana pudding. Like, man,
It's all over.
I can't. Dang it.
Maybe I shouldn't have told her that. Tritium tubes are as radioactive. They're just really low. It's really low. It's just really low.
Man.
So as we begin to kind of close out the show here, what's up and coming for Wind Up, the Wind Up shop? Anything you can tell us about? Anything new?
Yeah, so we're looking forward to actually getting back to the show, and we're going to do that just as soon as we can. We do have some upcoming announcements that we'll be making for the end of this year to try and bring the community back together.
Oh, cool.
Obviously, we can't do that in person, but we've got some other things that we're going to be announcing soon. And then just as soon as we can next year, we'll get back to it. We still have Chicago on the list that we never got done, which feels weird to say because we were supposed to go there. But we'll have Chicago, San Francisco, and New York just as soon as we can, and we're looking forward to seeing everybody. We've done some limited editions this year. We have more coming.
Ooh, nice.
Awesome.
We're the brands that we work with, are always interesting. And we continue to be, really shocked at the people that say, yeah, well, come do it in LA with us. We're like, okay. So we run to them. So we've got a few more of those coming up relatively soon. And then I think in general, you'll see just, a lot more watches from us, which we just launched a new brand yesterday called Bear Watch from Venice, California. And we've got some more interesting watches that from a company that you may or may not have heard from, probably 2 of them in the next month or 2, that we're looking to put a spotlight on and have them in the shop. And telling their story. So stay tuned to our Chronicle and the watch and Worn and Wound itself, and we'll make announcements about those. But lots to come.
Yeah, so that's very exciting. I think that something we kind of joked about is recently with some of your limited editions, they're pretty hot commodity. Like they're selling out now. Y'all are turning into Houdini.
Yeah.
Like it's 10 seconds they're sold out. No, but that's really awesome, and I'm sure that makes you guys very, very happy that people are so excited about these limited editions. I know maybe it was the Baltic that sold out really fast.
Yeah.
The Baltic sold out. Yeah, really fast.
Everything lately, I think everything this year has sold out fairly quickly that I've paid attention to.
Yeah.
Laurier did well as well.
Yeah.
And Laurier, I mean, Laurier and Baltic don't make bad watches.
No.
Like they just, it's impossible for them to do so. So when we were allowed to build a watch with them, and we're like, absolutely. And, it was kind of funny because we brought those watches out really during kind of the middle of lockdown for most people. And we were kind of like, well, I hope people still want them. Yeah. And we were pleasantly surprised. And, the goal for us is to put watches in as many people's hands as possible. Yeah. So we're always going to, keep that in the front of our mind to make as many as possible with these companies within the constraints that we have. And then we'll continue to do that going forward. But yeah, we're really happy with it. We started a long time ago doing this, and it's always a fun ride because most brands for the most part, they're just like, have fun, do what you think. Okay. And we'll have a chat about it once you kind of come up with an idea. And the company that we're working with now, heavily, that we'll have hopefully by the end of the year, I think you'll be really excited about it because it's a great watch, and it's one that's very close to me. So.
Oh, that's cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, I mean, I will say I love the Worn and Wound limited editions. I think they're some of my favorite watches altogether. Just the color, the colors that you guys choose, they're always a little bit different than the mainstream stuff that we see.
Yeah.
But I also wanted to say that when you did the digital kind of wind up fair, that was really awesome. I think it was nice to see so many brands participate. I mean, it's not the same obviously as everybody kind of coming together, but I'm so glad that you guys still did that.
Something.
Yeah, you did something.
Yeah. Blake Malin, who's one of our co-founders, he really runs the show, and when everything happened and we couldn't have the show, it was devastating to all of us, and he and the rest of the team really wanted to do that, and that virtual fair for us and having people on Instagram, I think was helpful for a lot of people because we got to talk to people that we were expecting to talk to, and we got to share those conversations, and they did a great job. Blake and Zach will be we're doing that, and then we now have Blake Bettner, who's the editor of Worn and Wound, and then we have Zach Kazan. So hopefully you'll see more from them in the future when we're able to do more kind of virtual things going forward, because we that was really fun, and it's a way to connect with people. And I see a lot of brands doing it on their own. I saw Zenith the other day was doing it, and Grand Seiko was doing it the other day with their tourbillon. So it's a good connective device, even past all this stuff that happens.
Yeah, I think that a lot of brands realize, oh, hey, we can talk to people through social media
for free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's worked out. And I hope that like you said, I hope that continues even once we get past all this, that they still kind of do that outreach, because I think it works really, really well.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, James, it's been awesome talking to you. I'm so glad that we got to chat with you today.
Yes,
for the
thank
first
you
time
so
in a
Finally.
long time.
Finally. And the challenge is still on.
It's on.
It's on. Like,
It's on.
we'll start a group chat.
Got it.
I don't know
every
what
day.
my prize is.
Got
It
it.
sounds like it's an Omega, but I don't know.
Well, figure it's $10,
It's
right?
either an
It's
Omega
$10.
or
Okay,
$10.
so yours is $10.
It's one or the other.
Mine's a waffle.
So it'll be a surprise as to what you get.
Okay.
Well, it's been a pleasure, and
You too.
we'll have to have you on again soon.
All right. I'll see y'all soon.
All right.
Do you want to take us out?
Yeah. Everybody can make sure that they check out our show notes, www.tennand2.com. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter at Tenn&2 Media. Go follow the cool guys over at Warner Wound and the Wind Up Watch Shop, and keep an eye on what's coming up next, because it sounds like it's going to be exciting.
Yeah.
All right.
That's
I
it.
think that's it. Bye,
Bye,
y'all.
everyone.